Welcome to today's Sutta study. So today we're going to be learning a beautiful sutta which is found in the Majjhima Nikaya of the Pali Canon. And the name of this sutta is called the Bhumija Sutta. Okay. So this sutta is very important to us because it really opens up our eyes about how we should develop our Dhamma path. It really gives us a good direction and reveals something really important, which is essential in understanding in order to get closer to Nibbana. Okay, so let's go on and learn this sutta. So during this time, our great teacher, the Supreme Buddha, was living in Rajagaha, in the bamboo grove. And one morning, Venerable Bhumija, so this sutta is named after this venerable monk who was involved in this situation. Okay, so in the morning, Venerable Bhumija, dressed and taking his pole and outer robe, he went to the house of Prince Jayasena and sat down on a seat made ready. Okay, so Venerable Bhumija was pretty much going on his alms round. And he went for his alms round, he went to Prince Jayasena's house for alms. So when he was seated, Prince Jayasena went to Venerable Bhumija and exchanged greetings with him. And sat down to one side, and he asked Venerable Bhumija a question. Okay, and the question was, he asked, Master Bhumija, there are some recluses and Brahmins who say or who hold this view that even if you lead the holy life willingly, you are not able to get any results. So what is Prince Jayasena saying? He's saying there are some recluses and Brahmins who say that even if you practice the holy life willingly means you do it happily on your own will, you do so. Even if you do it, you can't get any results. And then they say, even if you practice the holy life unwillingly, so you do it by force or you do it because somebody tells you to, okay? Then in that case also you can't get any results, okay? And these Brahmins and recluses say, even if you practice the holy life willingly and unwillingly, you still can't get any results by practicing the holy life. And so Prince Jason is asking, what does Venerable Bhumija's teacher say regarding this? Okay, so Prince Jason is asking Venerable Bhumija, what does Venerable Bhumija's teacher say regarding this? So at that time, Venerable Bhumija replied like this. He said, I have not heard and learned that from the Blessed One's own lips. The Supreme Buddha has not said a direct answer to what you're saying, and I have not heard the Supreme Buddha say anything in regards to the question that you're asking. Okay, so usually if a monk has heard something from the Supreme Buddha, then what monks do is monks teach the teaching of the Buddha, right? So Venerable Bhumija is saying, I have not I have not heard the answer to your question directly from my great teacher, the Supreme Buddha. However, it's possible that the Supreme Buddha might answer like this. So because he knows the Supreme Buddha, because he understands the Dhamma, he says, now he in his mind he's making an inference. He's saying it's possible that the Supreme Buddha might answer like this. And he said, if a person practices the holy life unwisely, but he does so willingly, okay, he willingly, on his own will, happily he practices the holy life, but he's not wise, he's unwise. If that is the case, then one will not be able to attain any fruits by practicing the path. If a person has no will, that means he doesn't want to practice the Dhamma path, he is forced to, or someone is making him. And if he's practicing the holy life and if he's still unwise, in that case also he can't get any fruit from the Dhamma path. If one practices the holy life both willingly and unwillingly, and if he's still unwise, then still that person cannot get any result from the Dhamma path. Okay. However, if a person practices the holy life willingly, so he happily does it, and he's also wise, so he's practicing the Dhamma path wisely. If he's wisely doing it, and if he's willingly doing it, then he can gain results from the Dhamma path. Even if a person practices the Dhamma path unwillingly, if he is wise, then he still can gain results from the Dhamma path. So you can see, even if a person practices Dhamma path unwillingly, so maybe because somebody is forcing him to, maybe somebody is making him, because he is doing so because out of respect for somebody's words, he is practicing the Dhamma path. But he is wise, he is doing so wisely. If that is the case, even if he practices unwillingly, he will be able to attain results from it. And then Venerable Bhumija says, now Venerable Bhumija is saying this by inference. Now he has not heard this directly from the Supreme Buddha's lips or words. He is making an inference. This is most likely how our great teacher might reply to your answer. And then he's saying, if one willingly and unwillingly, okay, willingly and unwillingly, if he practices Dhamma path and if he is wise, then that person can also gain the results of the Dhamma path. Okay. And again, Venerable Bhumija says, I have not heard this directly from the Supreme Buddha, but it's possible that this is the way that the Supreme Buddha might answer. Okay, so when Prince Jayasena heard this answer, he was very happy. And he replied saying, if Master Bhumija's teacher speaks like this, then it certainly seems that Venerable Bhumija's teacher stands ahead of all the ordinary recluses and Brahmins. So he realized that then the Supreme Buddha is someone special. If the answer to my question would be given like this, then the Supreme Buddha is definitely someone special. So he replied like that. And afterwards, he served Venerable Bhumija with food and offered dana. And afterwards, what happened is Venerable Bhumija returned back to the monastery. You know, where was the Supreme Buddha staying at this time? Where were the Supreme Buddha staying? I mentioned this in the beginning.
Rajagaha. Rajagaha.
Good. Was living in Rajagaha in the bamboo grove in Veluvanarama. Okay. So I was testing how much you're paying attention. Okay, so Venerable Bhumija, he returned back to Rajagaha, the Veluvanarama, where the Supreme Buddha was staying, and worshipped the Supreme Buddha, paid homage to him, and sat down and told our great teacher Supreme Buddha this conversation that happened between him and Prince Bhumija. Sorry, Prince Jayasena. Okay, so Venerable Bhumija told our great teacher, the Supreme Buddha, about this conversation that he had with Prince Jayasena. And after he explained this, Venerable Bhumija, he says to the Supreme Buddha, Venerable Sir, I hope by answering like that, I did not misinterpret and say what is contrary to the Dhamma. So he says, Venerable Sir, by answering like that, I hope I didn't misinterpret the Supreme Buddha, and I hope I didn't say anything contrary to the Dhamma. I hope I explained in accordance with the Dhamma in such a way that nothing which provides a ground for censure can be legitimately deduced from my assertion. So he's saying, what he's saying is, I hope I said what is accordance with the Dhamma and not otherwise. Because if he said something otherwise, then that would be censored by the wise, right? And when Venerable Bhumija said this, our great teacher, the Supreme Buddha, answered like this. Surely, Bhumija, when you were asked such a question and answered thus, you said what has been said by me and did not misinterpret me what is contrary to fact. So, the Supreme Buddha says, what you said is true. The way you answered is right. And you didn't say anything contrary to the Dhamma. That is exactly the way I would have answered as well. Okay? You explained in accordance with the Dhamma. And the Supreme Buddha continued to teach, and the Supreme Buddha teaches, whatever recluses and Brahmins have wrong view, wrong intention, wrong speech, wrong action, wrong livelihood, wrong effort, wrong mindfulness, and wrong concentration, if they lead the holy life willingly or unwillingly, they will not be able to gain any result. Okay, so the Supreme Buddha teaches, if a person practices the holy life, so holy life meaning a person practices the Dhamma, let's say. Okay, if a person practices the Dhamma willingly, so that means he's really into it, he really wants to develop the Dhamma path, and he really wants to become liberated. Okay, so he is practicing the Dhamma path willingly. Okay, however, he is not wise. If he is not wise, can he become liberated? He can't. Okay. Even if a person practices the Dhamma path unwillingly, if that person is not wise, that person cannot also cannot become liberated. However, if a person practices the Dhamma path willingly, and if he is wise, he practices the Dhamma path with wisdom. He has wisdom. Then that person has the ability to become liberated. And the Supreme Buddha teaches, even if a person practices the Dhamma path unwillingly, so he is not doing it because he wants to do it on his own, but he's doing so because somebody is making you. Then if that person has wisdom, then that person can also become liberated. So now through this, what we should understand then is what is important is is it the will to practice the Dhamma, or is it the wisdom? What is more important? It is the wisdom. Even if a person doesn't have wisdom, if a person does not practice this Dhamma path wisely, then even if he practices this so well or tries so much, he can't gain any fruit. So what is this wisdom? That is, the Supreme Buddha teaches, it is you have to practice the Dhamma path by having come to Samma Ditti. Okay? If a person practices the Dhamma path without Samma Ditti, the right view, okay, he might meditate, he might practice virtue, practice sila, he might try to control his he might try to control his body, speech, and mind, right? But he doesn't have wisdom. So if he doesn't have wisdom, can he gain the true results of this Dhamma path? He can't, right? In order to gain the right view, you need wisdom. That's what the Supreme Buddha is teaching here. So this is very important to us. So our goal should be then is to come to this point, that is coming to or developing Sammadit, the right view. Okay, the person who has come to the right view, that is the person who enters the path to Nibbana. And that is the person who will slowly develop the Dhamma path and reach Nibbana. Okay, because if a person practices this Dhamma path with the wrong view is known as Miccha Ditti. Okay, with wrong views filled in his head, he meditates, he practices sila, or he does whatever other things that he does. Okay, if his view is wrong, then the Supreme Buddha teaches, then all the other factors are wrong. His actions are wrong, his words are wrong, his concentration is wrong, his mindfulness is wrong, everything is wrong. It's like this. The Supreme Buddha teaches. Now suppose you plant a bitter seed on the ground. Okay, if that seed is bitter, okay, once the tree, now let's say it's a neem seed. Okay, so you plant a neem seed on the ground, and when the tree is growing, can you get anything sweet out of that tree? No, right? The leaves are bitter, the bark is bitter, everything is bitter. Why? Because the seed was neem. It was a bitter seed. So the Supreme Buddha teaches Miccha Ditti is also like that. If a person does a practice based on Miccha Ditti, the wrong view, then everything he does is wrong, is going in the wrong path. He cannot get closer to Nibbana. So now this is something that's so prominent these days. There are so many people with the who are filled and clouded and who are spreading the wrong view. Okay, many people they say whatever they come to their mind, and to you know to make themselves look so important, they say they spread so many wrong views in the society, in this world. Okay, so those people who are not wise, what happens is they go into those streams and thinking they are practicing the path to liberation. They are doing so many things. However, you have to understand you cannot get any closer to Nibbana through those things. Okay? So that's why it's very important that you come to the right view. That is, the right view means understanding the Four Noble Truths. Okay? In order to, now one of the reasons that people go in these wrong streams, okay, while the pure Dhamma is there, sometimes when people listen to the pure Dhamma, still they can't form a pleasant mind about the pure Dhamma. Why is that? Their mind always goes to those wrong things. That's what seems so interesting to them. One of the reasons is because of their past karma. It's said that if you're someone who has spread wrong views to others in your previous lives, then you can never come to the right view. Yeah. That's why even if, sometimes there are people, we try to teach them the Dhamma, in the purest form, but they just can't form a pleasant mind. Okay? So if a person has spread these wrong views in society, then as a result of that bad karma, they can never come to the right view. So this is the danger of spreading these wrong views. So imagine those people who are doing it in the present society, they will never be able to, come to the true Dhamma in this journey of samsara. That's so, can't tell you how dangerous that is. So that is why if you know, if you know people who are doing this, then if you can guide them in the right way, you can try. But one of the things that you have to make sure is that you keep yourselves protected, because people get misguided really quickly. And another reason that people go into this miccha ditti, or one of the reasons that people go into these wrong beliefs, is in previous lives they have practiced the wrong livelihood. Wrong livelihood means they have made a livelihood means what you do to make a living, right? So it's your job. So if a person has done unrighteous jobs, or if a person has done things to make a living in the wrong way, then it's said as a result of that also, you're not able to form a pleasant mind about the pure Dhamma, and you're not able to come to the right way. Okay, so at least if in this life, if we can, make sure our livelihood is pure. For example, so remember the teachers, one of the some of the jobs that you should not be doing is, selling alcohol, selling drugs, selling humans and as slaves, selling animals for meat, selling weapons, right? Those are jobs that you should never do. And also, if you're someone who does your job in the wrong way, for example, if you're given a certain responsibility, you don't fulfill it, but you get the salary. That also belongs to the wrong livelihood. When you're doing a job, you should go on time, leave on time, and while you're at work, you should do your work at the right way, instead of wasting your time, instead of wasting resources. Okay, because all of these accumulates and just makes us suffer in this samsara. And also, when you're doing your job, you should make sure that you never make others suffer. Okay, so for example, if you're someone who's high, or if you're, in the office, if you have a high place, you have to make sure that you don't look down on others, you don't blame and accuse others and insult others and make others suffer, make your subordinates suffer. Because there are some people, once they're in a high place, they try to spread their power to the entire uh, workplace, and they just stress out so many people, and that is also wrong livelihood. Whatever you're doing to make a living, you should not stress yourself out, you should not stress others out. You have to do it um, in a very gentle way, so that you don't hurt anybody else. Okay? So if at least in this very life we can correct these things in our lives, right? It really helps us to develop our Dhamma path. Okay, and if you're someone who's in doing business, for example, these days, if you go to buy something, you ask for 2 meters of cloth. When they measure, what they do is they only give 1.5 meters. What is that? It's fraud. So that all of those things are wrong livelihood. And some people, when they are selling, they overestimate they double, triple the actual cost of it, and they earn money like that. All of those things are wrong livelihood. So people these days, they are doing a lot of these things. So as a result, I think in this very life, they're experiencing the result. They just cannot come to the right way. Okay, so it's something that we all should be very careful about, and we should try to protect ourselves at least. Okay, so this everybody teaches. If a person has the wrong view, then no matter how much he tries to develop the Dhamma path, he cannot develop and gain any results. Okay, so what is and the Supreme Buddha teaches some beautiful similes to understand this. Okay, the Supreme Buddha teaches, suppose a person who needs oil. Okay, a person who is seeking oil. Now, during the Supreme Buddha's time, there was like a little machine kind of thing that they used to make oil. What they would do is they would put things like, if you want sesame oil, you would put sesame seeds in there, and then you would kind of grind it. It's like a grinding machine, right? So the Supreme Buddha teaches, suppose a person who's looking for oil, he would take some sand, and he would put it in the machine, and then he would grind it. He would circle it, expecting oil. Would he ever get oil? No, right? The Supreme Buddha teaches um, that's the same thing. If a person practices this Dhamma path without wisdom, that is, without having Samma Ditti, then no matter how hard he turns, he cannot gain the results. Isn't that a beautiful simile? Right? So in the same way, now a person can turn the grinder willingly or unwillingly. Right? But whether he turns the grinder willingly or unwillingly, what he has put inside is sand, he can never gain oil. So that is what the Srimad is saying. It's not necessarily that willing or unwilling love, it's that wisdom. So if you're foolish, it's because that person is foolish. That person doesn't understand how to make oil. Right? Therefore, he puts sand. So he has no idea of how to make oil properly. So he's foolish. So such a person, even if he turns it so willingly, he can never gain oil. In the same way, the Supreme Buddha teaches, if a person practices this holy life so willingly, but if he has no wisdom, if he has not come to Samma Ditti, the right view, then he'll never be able to gain the real results of this Dhamma. Okay? Then the Supreme Buddha teaches another simile. Suppose a man who's looking for milk, so he wants milk. Okay, he would go to a cow and instead of pulling on her breast, what he would do is, in order to get milk, he would pull from her horn. Would he ever get milk from pulling on the horn? No. So he doesn't know the right way to get milk. So even if he pulls willingly, if he's pulling the wrong thing, he can never gain results of it. So the same with the teachers in the same way. Okay, if a person practices Dhamma path willingly, but if he doesn't have Sammaditthi, if he doesn't have wisdom, then no matter how hard he tries, he cannot gain the results. Then the Srimad teaches another simile. Suppose a person who is seeking butter. Okay, a person who is seeking butter would pour some. He would put water. He would pour water, and he would mix the water with a stick, expecting butter. Can you ever get butter from water? You can't, right? So with the teachers, in the same way, if a person practices the Dhamma path, now he's practicing the Dhamma path. He's trying to meditate. He's trying to practice mindfulness. He's trying to learn the Dhamma. He's trying to control his speech and actions, but he doesn't have the right view. He doesn't have the right understanding. If he doesn't have the right understanding, no matter he can spend his entire life doing it, can he gain the right results? He can't. He cannot gain liberation. He cannot gain nibbana. Okay. And then the Supreme Buddha teaches another simile. Suppose a man who wants fire. Suppose a person who wants to make a fire, he goes and he rubs two wet pieces of wood together. And he expects to make fire. Can he ever make fire? He can't, right? Because he does not know, he does not understand the right way to make fire. In the same way, the Supreme Buddha teaches, if a person practices the holy life, this Dhamma path, without wisdom, without having the right understanding, he cannot gain the results. Okay? Then the Supreme Buddha teaches, however, if a person practices this Dhamma path with the right view, so he has the right understanding, he does so with wisdom. Okay. Such a person is able to gain the results, whether he does it willingly or unwillingly. Okay. And so remember the teachers who says those same similes. So remember the teachers, suppose a man wanting oil, he would go and he would put some sesame seeds into that grinder and then he would turn it. Okay? So whether he turns it willingly or unwillingly, if he does it, then he will definitely get well. Right? In the same way, if a person practices a Dhamma path willingly or unwillingly, if a person does so with wisdom, having come to Sammaditthi, then that person will definitely gain the results. Now, for you to understand this, I will give you an example. You all know that our great teacher, the Supreme Buddha's brother, what's his name? The Supreme Buddha's brother, that is Queen Pajapati's son, was Nanda.
Nanda. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So Nanda, Prince Nanda, do you know how he ordained? How he got ordained? Prince Nanda, this is how he got ordained. Okay, our great teacher, the Supreme Buddha, when he came back to his hometown, he taught the Dhamma, and many people understood the Dhamma. And on one occasion, when the Supreme Buddha was returning from the palace, what he did is he gave his alms bowl to Prince Nanda. So that means he has to carry the alms bowl until the Supreme Buddha goes into the monastery. So he had no choice. He can't give the alms bowl back to the Supreme Buddha. So he had no choice. So he had to go behind the Supreme Buddha up to the monastery. And once the Supreme Buddha went to the monastery, the Supreme Buddha asked Nanda, Nanda, would you like to ordain? So now Nanda cannot say no to the Buddha because he is the elder brother, he is a Buddha. Now, out of so much respect, he couldn't say no, but he had no intention of becoming ordained. He was just about to get married in a few days. But because he couldn't say no, he said yes. So he got ordained because he had no other choice. He couldn't say no. So now he got ordained, and now he didn't get ordained to practice the Dhamma path or reach Nibbana. So now he's, he's getting dressed in beautiful robes, very expensive robes, and he's using a very beautiful decorated alms bowl. So now he's kind of living the same lavish life that he used to in the household life. So the Supreme Buddha, of course, the one who knows and sees everything, the Supreme Buddha, what he did one day is he took Venerable Nanda, using the Supreme Buddha's psychic powers, the Supreme Buddha took Venerable Nanda to the heavenly world. Okay? And when Venerable Nanda saw the heavenly princesses, he was just mesmerized. And the Supreme Buddha asked, now he was about to get married now. He was about to get married with a human woman. So the Supreme Buddha asked, who is more beautiful? Your fiance or these divine princesses? And so of course Venerable Nanda said, oh Venerable Sir, these are so beautiful princesses. So the Supreme Buddha said, well Nanda, I guarantee you, if you practice the Dhamma path, I guarantee you, you will get these princesses. So Nanda, see how he was so lustful. So Nanda, he thought, wow, great. Okay, Venerable, so I'll do it. So he agreed to practice the Dhamma path, not to gain liberation, but to gain those divine princesses. So they came back to the human world. And now Venerable Nanda is practicing the Dhamma path. Why? Because he wants to gain those divine princesses. But he's practicing the Dhamma path. Okay, so now is he doing this willingly? No, he became ordained unwillingly, and he's practicing the Dhamma path unwillingly, but only because he wants those princesses. Okay? However, he had that special thing. What is that? What is that? He had wisdom. So while he was practicing the Dhamma path, because he had wisdom, he understood, he realized, and he came to Sammaditthi. He gained Sammaditthi, he came to the right view. And from there on, he quickly developed the Dhamma path and he became an Arahant. Okay, so now he became ordained unwillingly. He practiced the Dhamma path unwillingly. However, because he had that wisdom, he was able to understand and come to the right view and quickly become an Arahant. And after he became an Arahant, he went to the Supreme Buddha and he said, Venerable Sir, you gave me, I made a deal with you. I came to say that you're no longer in debt to that deal. And at that moment, the Supreme Buddha said, Nanda, the moment you became an arahant, I became free from that deal. Right? Now you see, Venerable Nanda, he practiced the Dhamma path not willingly, but because he had that special thing, wisdom, he was able to attain the fruits and results. Right? The Supreme Buddha teaches in the same way. If a person wants milk, then if he goes to the cow and he pulls from the cow's udders, then you can get milk. Right, but so that means if that person knows the right way to gain milk, then that person can gain milk. That means he has a good understanding and good realization of how to gain milk. In the same way, if a person has the right understanding, the right view, then if that person, whether that person practices the Dhamma path willingly or unwillingly, he will definitely gain the results. Okay. And then the teachers in the same way. If a person seeking butter, if he pours curd into the container and then he mixes it, then he will definitely be able to gain butter. So if he knows the right way, if he understands the right way to gain butter, he can gain it. In the same way, if a person wants fire, if he goes and takes very dry two dry sticks and he rubs it together, he will be able to gain fire. In the same way, if a person practices the Dhamma path with wisdom, that is, having come to the right view, then that is the person who can gain the results of the Dhamma path and reach Nibbana. Okay, so this is very important to us. Whatever it is we do, we have to make sure we do so with the right understanding. Because Samma Ditti. So what is Samma Ditti? The Supreme Buddha teaches Samadhi means or right view is the understanding of the Four Noble Truths. That's what Samadhi is. So understanding what suffering is, understanding the cause of suffering, understanding how to be, understanding that it's possible to be free from suffering, and understanding the path leading to freedom from suffering. So what is suffering? Suffering is, the Supreme Buddha teaches, having to be born is suffering. Okay, because from the moment we are born, we are aging. Aging is suffering. So if a person understands this. And having to fall sick is suffering. Having to become separated from the ones we love is suffering. Having to be together with people we don't like is suffering. If a person understands the five aggregates of clinging, it is the reason that we are going again, that we are reborn again and again. If a person understands this, that person has understood what suffering is. And the cause of suffering is craving. It's because of craving that we are reborn again and again and again and again. So if a person understands this, then if a person understands, if you get rid of craving, then it's possible to be free from suffering. That's called cessation of suffering. If a person completely gets rid of craving, that person has reached Nibbana. So it's possible to be free from suffering. A person can understand this, realize this. And fourth, understanding the way to get rid of craving, the way to be free from suffering is practicing the Noble Eightfold Path. He has a clear understanding. This is the path. This is the direct path. There is no other path. This is the path. If a person practices this path, if a person can if a person if a person practices the Eightfold Path, then that person can be free from suffering. So if a person can understand these Four Noble Truths, and that is called Samma Ditti, he has come to the right way. And if a person practices the Dhamma path based on Samma Ditti, then he is developing the Dhamma path. Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa. So he's practicing the right perceptions. He's practicing loving kindness. He's practicing not to get angry. And he's practicing to be free from sensual pleasures. He's practicing not to think of harming others. Right? That is called Samma Sankappa, the right perception. Then Samma Vacha, then he controls his speech. He does not lie, he does not say harsh words, he does not uh, say divisive speech, he does not say empty words. Then Samma Kampanta, he practices and he controls his bodily actions. He does not kill, he does not steal, he does not engage in sexual misconduct, he controls his actions. Samma Ajiva, he makes sure that the way he makes a living is righteous. He does not do anything wrong to gain money. Doesn't engage in any fraud, does not cheat others to make living, does not fool others. He does his job righteously. Okay, and then he practices right mindfulness. He practices right effort. He always tries to abandon defilement and develop wholesome things in his mind. And he practices mindfulness. He practices the Satipatthana. And then he develops Samma Samadhi, the right concentration. Okay? So all of these things start from Samma Ditti. Okay. So in order for a person to come to Samma Ditti, what does he need? He needs wisdom. It's wisdom that makes him realize the Four Noble Truths. Okay. Without understanding the Four Noble Truths, okay, that person cannot develop Dhamma path and gain the true results from it. Okay. So that's why we have to understand that it's so important to come to Samma Ditti. If a person has come to Samma Ditti, that person is also called a Sotapanna disciple. Okay, that person is called a Sotapanna disciple if he has come to Samma Ditti. So how are we going to gain, or how are we going to develop this Samma Ditti? The Supreme Buddha teaches, if you do these four things, then you will be able to gain Samma Ditti, and that is associating with noble friends. This is so important. Noble friends with Kalyana Mitta. Kalyana Mittas only teach the Dhamma. They do not spread wrong views. They do not teach wrong things. They only teach the pure Dhamma. That's it. Okay, associating with noble friends who encourage you to develop good qualities, who teach you the right Dhamma. This is where many people go wrong. When you go to associate with Papa Mittas, wrong friends, that's where people go wrong. Okay, so you have to be very careful about who you associate with. Even if you're listening to the Dhamma, you need to make sure that you're listening to the Dhamma from the right person. Because if you go on listening to Dhamma from everywhere, then you're going to be in trouble. And of course, to recognize whether this is the true Dhamma or not, you need wisdom. So that's why everywhere it's wisdom that you need. Without wisdom, that's why the Buddha teaches Panyavanta Sayan Dhamma, Nayan Dhamma, Dupanya. So this Dhamma is for the wise, not for the unwise. So if you have the association with noble friends, and if you listen to the right Dhamma, that is the second point, And the third point is so important, and that is, if you have wise consideration, you need to develop yoniso manasikara, and that's called wise consideration. That is always thinking in line with the Dhamma, always thinking the Dhamma, not thinking in the ordinary way. Always thinking according to Dhamma. If you are facing a problem, you always think in what is the answer to this in the Dhamma. You always think in line with the Dhamma. Yoniso manasikara, thinking wisely. And the fourth is practicing the Dhamma. Okay, so you associate with noble friends, you listen to the Dhamma from them, and then when you're listening to the Dhamma, you think wisely, you think according to the Dhamma, and you practice the Dhamma in your everyday life. If you do these four things, the Supreme Buddha teaches, you will be able to come to Samma Ditti. And if you come to Samma Ditti, or if you develop Samma Ditti, then the Supreme Buddha teaches, it's like Samma Ditti is like dawn. Okay, early in the morning, when you see um, early in the morning when there's dawn, you know that the sun is going to rise for sure, right? In the same way, the Supreme Buddha teaches, if a person has sammaditthi, then that person will definitely reach nibbana. Okay, that's a guarantee that the Supreme Buddha has given. Okay, so may this beautiful sutta help all of us to gain the wisdom that's needed in order to develop sammaditthi, the right view, develop the Dhamma path, and attain nibbana in this Gautam Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.